This is Behind the Curtain. Today we're going to be talking about how Todd Phillips got the idea for Joker, what film influenced Joker the most, and why this film is important for all filmmakers.
I had another film that I made right prior to this called War Dogs. And I remember I was standing outside on Hollywood Boulevard pacing, because I never sit through premieres and screenings. They make me too nervous. And I started thinking about, wow, this movie's not going to, as I said, set the world on fire. And God, the business has really changed, and it's so hard to cut through the fog nowadays with films. And I sitting there smoking a cigarette, staring at this billboard for a comic book film, and I'm realizing this is really where the business is headed. And the movies I grew up on, the movies that really shaped me growing up, these films from the 70s, whether it's Scorsese and Taxi Driver or Sidney Lumet films or One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I go, you couldn't even get those movies made nowadays. If you walked in with that script for Network, could that movie even get made nowadays? And then I thought, well, you could make it if you made it about one of those guys literally staring at the billboard. And I just thought, wow, there's a way to kind of sneak a movie through the system, a movie about something meaningful, if you kind of dress it up this way. And as mercenary as that sounds, that's really what the idea was. So the head of Warner Brothers at the time, he called me because he couldn't come to the premiere because it was a week before his kids started school and they had to go on vacation. So he knows me because I've made 6-7 movies at Warner's that I'm always standing outside on Hollywood Boulevard at the premieres. So he calls me on the phone and says, hey man, I knew you'd be outside. I knew you'd pick up. I just want to tell you I'm sorry I'm not there. Love you, love the movie. We're going to support it, whatever. And I go, hey Greg, I have this idea. Literally the day of the night of the premiere.
While the film is
playing
inside.
Inside. And he goes, yeah, what is it? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not really a comic book movie guy. I find that they're for children, quite frankly. I've always find them they go down too easy for me in a way. But I was thinking about, well, what if you did it about one of the bad guys? What if you took a villain and gave him... So anyway, so I pitch it to Greg on the phone, and he loves it. Like, literally, I do 5 minutes on it, what it is. I hadn't had it worked out yet, of course, with the movie that we all see now, but I had the idea. And he goes, wow, I love that. That sounds amazing. Let's talk about it next week when I get back.
Is it just me? Or is it getting crazier out there?
The idea originally came from doing really a stripped down comic book film, to do a character study on one of these characters that we've seen in movies over these last 15-20 years that have almost taken over movies to some extent. And what if you actually did a character study on one of those characters? And to me, the logical one was Joker. He's represents mayhem and chaos, two things I've always been somewhat attracted to, and to sort of break down how he got like that. And really it was very simple for Scott Silver and I, who wrote the script together. It was all about running everything through as realistic a lens as possible.
So why does Joker have a white face and green hair? Well, in the comic books, he fell into a vat of acid. That didn't feel very real to us. If you fell into a vat of acid, I don't know that your skin would turn white and your hair would be green. So we sort of backwards engineered everything. The mental illness was also a thing of going, well, a little bit like, where does his laugh come from? And if you see the movie, you realize he has a condition. The Joker character in the comic book world is famous for the green hair, the white face, the laugh. So we really just wanted to give everything real world reasons.
There was a lot of things that informed him, but ultimately there's childhood trauma, which is not necessarily a new idea. There's a lack of love, which is not a new idea. There's Gotham, which represents this sort of loss of empathy. All these things that kind of, to us, would sort of build this character.
Murray, one small thing.
Yeah.
When you bring me out, can you introduce me as Joker?
A lot of people keep talking about the influences of this movie, the inspirations, and clearly a lot of the 70s cinema was a big inspiration for us. But the biggest inspiration to start when we were writing was this silent film called The Man Who Laughed, which really does explore the idea of smiling through pain. One of the first things I think that attracted Joaquin Phoenix to the role was that idea of the affliction of laughter and what does laughing look and sound like when it's coming from a place of pain. And I don't know, that always has sat with me, even over the years, making comedy films, knowing a lot of comedians, knowing a lot of knowing that the fact that a lot of their comedy comes from pain. There's just a fine line, as we say in the movie, as has been said for many, many years, is between comedy and tragedy. You know, but to me, the film is clearly a tragedy. But we liked playing and walking that line.
I used to think that my life was a tragedy. But now I realize it's a fucking comedy.
The deliberate choice was to put real-world stakes on violence. I think we're so used to, in movies, seeing violence handled in a cartoonish way with very little repercussions.
Sure.
And we just thought if we're going to run everything in the movie through a realistic lens, whether it's Gotham, whether it's why he has a laugh, why he paints his face white, we wanted the violence to be painted with a realistic lens too.
Is something funny, asshole?
So that scene is really the first time you see any real violence in the movie. And to me, it's a very interesting scene in tone and in when you know it's coming and how the audience responds to it, because Arthur goes through 4 things in that scene. Arthur at first is kind of a jerk because these guys are accosting a woman on the subway and he's actually not doing anything, he's just watching. And you're like, fucking Arthur, like, do something. Then it turns on to Arthur and he's the victim. And now you feel bad for Arthur. Then Arthur is acting in self-defense and he kills a couple of these guys. And then Arthur becomes a predator and hunts down a guy that he didn't actually need to hunt down and kills.
Yeah.
And it's like these, in one scene, and it's why Joaquin is such a brilliant actor, you go through these 4 sort of versions of what he can do and can be.
I mean, like any screenplay, when you sit down, what does he want? What is he looking for? You know, the movie opens with him in the mirror doing this smile and this frown, and you realize, you know, this is a guy searching for identity, and that was a big part of the movie. It's a guy who is searching for a father figure. He sees it in Murray Franklin on TV. He sees it with Thomas Wayne when he feels like there might be a connection. All these things are kind of embedded in it, but one of the things that also informed it was the line between comedy and tragedy. And, you know, having done comedies most of my life, worked with some amazing comedians, there really is a fine line between comedy and tragedy. So much of it comes from a dark place, I think, with actual comedians and comics, that was interesting to Scott and I, is just sort of exploring this thing. Is my life a comedy or is it a tragedy?
Yeah.
I mean, the movie is very much about a man who, like many people, like everybody, we walk around in life with a mask on. It's hard to be your true self. Like, you know, you're putting forward the person you want to put forward. But everyone is sort of wearing a mask. Only in taking off that mask and being fully free is he the Joker, which is ironic because obviously Joker actually has a mask on. So not to get too heady about it, but the idea is only when he finally becomes Joker is he fully free. That dance on the stairs at the end, that's the culmination. That's his idea of freedom. That's the one time in the movie he's fully free, or from that time forward he's fully free in his mind. And that laugh in that Arkham State Hospital is meant to represent that through laughter.
The movie's a little tricky in some regards because he is a villain. He is a sociopathic narcissist at the end. So I think the twist of the movie is that we make you fall in love or feel for this guy, and as that mask chips away, this villain is actually revealed. He's not meant to be a hero at the end. So the disturbing and unsettling thing about the movie is you're going, God, I was rooting for him the whole time. Even at the end, I was rooting for him. But he is a villain at the end. I mean, the movie's still called Joker. It's not called Arthur. The goal of the movie was still to do an origin story of a villain. But there's a bit of a twist in it. And I hate the word trick, but a trick on the audience in a way of like getting you to love this guy until you can't love him anymore. The movie is explaining a little bit. We tried. Well, how do you get like that? What you're not born this way. The movie's about many things, but it's also about childhood trauma. It's about lack of love. It's about the loss of empathy and compassion in society, and that these things are not created in a vacuum, you know?
Art comforts the disturbed and disturbs the comfortable. And I think, Joker tended to do that with some people. Whether you like Joker or not doesn't matter, but you can use Joker when you go and you pitch movies at the studios, when they tell you no, it's too violent, or no, it's R-rated and there's a ceiling, or it's weird. Like, use Joker, point to Joker, and let that be part of your arsenal to push different ideas through.
Hi, this is Nehemiah Jordan, the creator of Behind the Curtain. I have so many videos lined up that are coming in the next couple of weeks, as well as a bigger project that I will be announcing soon. Go and subscribe so you don't miss anything. I'll see you next week as we take another look behind the curtain.